Today, I want to look at an interchange between an angel of the Lord and a couple of ladies who went to the tomb of Jesus to look for him. In Matthew 28, the Bible tells us, "And behold, there was a great earthquake, for an angel of the Lord descended from heaven and came and rolled back the stone from the door, and sat on it. His countenance was like lightning, and his clothing as white as snow. And the guards shook for fear of him, and became like dead men." This angel of the Lord was awesome to look at. He had come from the presence of God, and he was shining and glowing with the glory of God. This was way more than the Roman guards could take. They began to tremble and shake and quickly fell down in a faint. These hardened, tough Roman soldiers were lying all over the ground, passed out from a glimpse of God's glory shining through his servant, this spectacular angel of the Lord. Throughout the Bible, we find angels being sent as emissaries of the Lord Almighty. And even when they appear to God's faithful servants, fear is always the result. So much so that with almost every appearance of an angel, the very first words that come out of their mouths are identical: "Do not be afraid." Why do they say this? Well, because people always are afraid of these fearsome representatives of our Creator. They scare people terribly, and even the most godly men and women can barely stand in their presence. When this angel appeared, even the earth itself began to shake, and the stone which stood over the mouth of the tomb meekly rolled to the side. Finally, two women, disciples of Jesus, show up, and they see the angel plainly. And the angel says what angels always say when they're looked upon by God's children: "Do not be afraid." He went on to say, "I know that you seek Jesus who is crucified." In other words, you're friends of God. You're seeking Jesus because you love him and respect him. So you don't have any need to fear. And unlike the Roman soldiers who fell to the ground in a faint, these women were able to stand up and hear the words of this mighty heavenly being. The angel went on to tell the astonished ladies, "He is not here, for he is risen as he said." Then the angel invited the ladies to enter and observe the empty tomb, saying, "Come, see the place where the Lord lay." Now, we like to watch movies with tough guys, heroes, men who can defeat their enemies with a few quick punches and kicks. But no man on earth can match the power or the irresistible strength and glory of the angels of the Lord. All the Roman guards were lying on the ground like dead men from a single appearance of just one angel. But now we find this angel, mighty, powerful, irresistible, awesome to behold, unafraid of any man or any contingent of men, and yet when he speaks about Jesus, he calls him Lord. Come see the place where the Lord lay. Angels do not even begin to measure up to Jesus. He is infinitely greater than they are. He is the Lord, the boss, the one with all authority. Although when everybody else sees angels, they fear and tremble, it would not be so with Jesus. Whenever an angel might happen to meet Jesus, if anybody was going to tremble, it would be the angels, because he is their Lord, their boss. And so the angel of the Lord reverently says to the ladies, "Come see the place where the Lord lay." Amazingly, we discover that Jesus, who lived as a man and looked like a man, had complete authority over even the mighty and holy angels of God. Later in this chapter, Jesus tells his disciples, "All authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth. Go therefore and make disciples of all the nations." It is ironic that so many of his own people, while he was still on the earth walking the streets of Israel, did not show Jesus the respect he deserved, the respect which even the mighty angels demonstrated. Many of the elite of Israel looked upon Jesus as an uneducated Galilean, a common village man. He was too young, he was too uneducated, he was too common, he was too brash. What could he possibly teach them about God? And yet God in human flesh was right under their noses, and they could not see it. And so it is today. People today have little respect for Jesus, for his people, his church, his message, his morals, or his insistence that without him we'll never see heaven. The one the angels fear and respect, we ignore, reject, and even sometimes ridicule. The one who could calm the storms, heal the lepers, raise the dead, and walk on water, we treat with utter disdain. In the first chapter of the book of Hebrews, we read, "But when he again brings the firstborn into the world, he says, 'Let all the angels of God worship him.' And of the angels he says, 'Who makes his angels spirits and his ministers a flame of fire.' But to the Son he says, 'Your throne, O God, is forever and ever.'" Angels are not merely to obey Jesus, they are to worship Jesus. And we all recognize that the only one worthy of worship is God. It's no wonder the angel told the women, "Come see the place where the Lord lay." There's one further point that needs to be made. As mighty as Jesus is, as much authority as he holds, we must also see that he loves us. When Jesus went to the cross to die in our place, he went there voluntarily. He could easily have struck all his enemies dead or caused the earth to open up and swallow those Roman soldiers forever, just as it happened in the days of Moses. But Jesus went to the cross as a docile lamb, the Lamb of God. He said no word. He offered no resistance. He allowed the soldiers to drive those large nails through his hands and his feet because of his great love for you and me. 3 days later, he was raised from the dead, and now, just as the angel did, it behooves us all to acknowledge Jesus Christ is Lord, Lord of heaven, Lord of earth, and Lord of our own lives. Benedict and I would like to invite you to study the Bible with us through our podcast. Join us in our home as we do our morning Bible studies. With a podcast, there's nothing to see, you just listen. And that means you can enjoy our Bible study while you drive in your car, go for a walk, or work out at the gym. Our podcast is called Discover the Word with Den and Ben, and you can find it in most platforms where you get your podcasts. And if you know nothing at all about podcasts and how they work, there's a link in the description that will help get you started.